So good morning and welcome to One Heart, One Mind, Center for Spiritual Living's online Sunday service. That's always such a mouthful. I have to think about it for a minute. And this is the week, as Richard said, when we move into the celebration of Thanksgiving, which is traditionally a time when we collectively express gratitude for our lives and for all the things that we have experienced. And during this challenging time, all the experiences that we've had so far in 2020, we might have to dig a little deeper than usual to really feel a deep sense of gratitude for life, or maybe not. But as metaphysicians, we know that feeling gratitude for everything in our lives, even for the challenges, allows us to grow and to expand in our awareness and to move into a deeper connection with our source. At least that's how I experience it. So let's start today's message from here, from a recognition that everything that we experience has something to offer us, and even if it's not obvious to us right out of the gate. Our ability to face everything without resistance to the things we don't like and without hanging on and clinging to the things that we do like allows us to really embrace all of life and receive all of the gifts that every experience has for us. Because I don't know about you, but I have found that the things that push my buttons, so to speak, you ever have your buttons pushed? Those are actually the way forward for me. These are the things that life is highlighting for me, bringing to my attention so that I can continue to grow in love and enjoy. Because, as my talk title says, Spirit is always expressing through its creation, and we are its creation. So, I've been thinking about this all week. And so I think that throughout history, human beings have been asking pretty much this basic question: who am I? You know, and we might not actually verbalize it with those words, but I think we're all ultimately trying to figure out who we are and why we're here and what is this whole life thing about anyway. You know, I've certainly never stopped trying to answer that question. I never want to. And our answer to that question, I believe, is what shapes our lives, what shapes the way that we experience life. And our answers always change and grow as we are constantly changing and growing. And I think we would probably all agree that we are these conscious beings, these sentient beings, and that we're conscious and aware of what's going on in the world around us. So we could say, let's say this, we could say that we're in here, we're in this body, having this human experience, even though we might not know exactly how we got here and how it all works, even though we might have our own ideas. But we know we're here, and we know we're conscious, and we know that if we weren't here experiencing the world through our particular point of awareness, that the physical world would most likely still exist. I mean, it existed for billions of years before humans ever came on the scene. So I'm going to guess it would still be here. But if we weren't here, the stars would still shine and the sun would still come up over planet Earth, and which means to me that the natural world in its essence is impersonal. You know, we bring meaning to it in our own unique way, but the order and the natural laws of the universe are impersonal. But here's the thing. It doesn't really seem impersonal to us at all, does it? It seems very personal. It seems extremely personal to us. You know, and think about it. There are definite ways that we want to see life be, and definite ways that we don't want to see life be. And sometimes it can get a little complicated and confusing, especially this year. You know, there are things that make us feel really good and things that make us feel really bad. And often we think, and I include myself in this, we think that it's the things in the world that need to be changed and rearranged so that we can be peaceful and content and happy on the inside. Anyone ever think that? Or is it just me? I bet it's everyone. Sometimes we think that we have to rearrange the outside so that we can feel better on the outside. And in the Science of Mind philosophy, we teach something entirely different. We teach that we don't begin in the world around us to change things. We begin by changing our own mind. And as we change the thoughts we focus on in our mind, we change the feelings we have in our bodies, then our outside world begins to change too. As our perception of the world changes from the inside out, our experience of the world changes. But everything starts within mind. And our thoughts are not mind. Thoughts are held in mind. Mind is the space where thoughts are held. You know, we often refer to mind as consciousness. I actually like that term, consciousness. And we say that there is a divine mind or one mind or consciousness, the mind of our creator, and that we are individualized expressions of that same mind. Science of Mind teaches that our creator knows itself more fully through its creation. Or to say it another way, our creator experiences life in form through us, and that we are individualized points of expression. It's such a mouthful for the divine mind, for the expression of divine mind or divine consciousness. So, big idea. But I know that it's pretty much review for most of you. So here we are. We find ourselves in these marvelous, what seem to be almost miraculous bodies that house this consciousness. And this body is equipped with physical senses to take in and experience the physical world around us and to help us live and navigate in our human lives. And that in and of itself is pretty amazing. What an incredible gift that we have these bodies to live, for consciousness to express in. And we also have, here's another wonderful thing, we also have the ability or the opportunity to learn to manage the thoughts that run through our mind and the feelings that move through our bodies so that we can experience everything that comes our way equally, without resistance to what we don't like and without clinging and hanging on to the things that we think we really want to hang on to. So why is that important? I've been thinking about this all week. So here's what I think. Because if we believe that how we feel on the inside is determined or dictated by what's happening on the outside world, we will rarely find peace and contentment. Because everything would have to be exactly the way we think it should be for us to be at peace or happy. And we would miss the gifts that all of the other experience of life have to offer us. And they are gifts and they are opportunities. You know, as I was putting together today's talk, I was reminded of this scene from a movie, kept coming running through my mind, and it's a movie called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Did you ever see The Secret Life of Walter Mitty? Can't even say it. I think it came out in the year 2013, and Ben Stiller was the main character. And Walter Mitty was this quiet, unassuming guy who worked for Life magazine. And his job was that he received all the negatives that were of all the pictures that were published in the magazine. Of course, this was way back when they used to actually use film in cameras and everything wasn't digital. But he would receive the negatives from this legendary photographer that worked for Life. His name was Sean O'Connell. I don't think he was a real guy, but he was played by Sean Penn. So Walter Mitty secretly wishes that he could have all of these wonderful adventures that O'Connell has as he photographs the world. And the story is told during the period of time when Life magazine was coming to the end of its run, when it was beginning to go out of business. And O'Connell, the photographer, had just sent Walter Mitty the final negative for the magazine for the final cover. But through a bizarre series of events, Walter Mitty never received the negative. Actually, he did, but he didn't know it was, anyway, long story. But so all he gets from O'Connell is this message that that says that this final negative captures the quintessence of life. So Walter Mitty, not having the negative, decides that he's going to set out to find O'Connell, who is very, very difficult to find. He goes all over the world shooting all kinds of photos for the magazine. So he's difficult to find, but Mitty wants to know what was on that final negative. What was the quintessence of life? So in the process, Walter Mitty ends up having all these amazing adventures. Oh, I didn't say, one of the things about Walter Mitty is he's a daydreamer. He sits in his head and he imagines that he goes on all of these adventures. And then when he finally gets out there and he does these real adventures, he finds that they also bring with them challenges, which is kind of what I'm talking about today. So that came to mind for me. But the scene that I really want to draw our attention to was this one that kept running through my head as I was preparing my talk. And it's a scene where when Walter Mitty finally catches up with O'Connell, he was in the Himalayas, and O'Connell is trying to get this photo of this rare snow leopard. And so here's the scene. They're both sitting on the side of a mountain, and O'Connell has his camera poised to capture the image of this rare snow leopard. And the snow leopard finally appears, and O'Connell backs away from the camera, and he just watches the snow leopard. And Walter Mitty asks, "When are you going to take it?" And O'Connell replies, "Sometimes I don't. When I like a moment," he says. I mean, personally, like a moment. I don't like to have the distraction of the camera. I just want to stay in it. And Walter Mitty says, "Stay in it?" And O'Connell replies, "Yeah, right there, right here." And I thought this was such a powerful message, a powerful moment. O'Connell recognized the power of being present to experience a single moment, to be in it without commentary, without filtering it through any of his previous experiences. And that, I believe, is what we're meant to do. To the best of our ability, to be in the moment without laying any of our previous experiences over the present experience, so that we can stand in the flow of life without resistance to what we don't want to experience, or without clinging to the things that we think we have to hang on to just be present. I believe that is the secret to standing in the flow of the divine. I hope this is making sense to you, because it really touched my heart. I really thought, yes, that's the message. Science of Mind teaches that because we're one with our Creator, which we talk about oneness all the time, and that we share its nature because of this oneness, and the nature of this infinite loving presence is to create, and spirit creates using the power of a natural law, the creative law. We talk about it all the time. And since our nature is spirit's nature, then our nature is to create as well. And just like our source, we are constantly creating. We create with the thoughts we hold in mind and the feelings we hold in our body. And these thoughts and feelings can become unconscious and automatic when we do them over and over again, as they often do. And then our lives begin to be a repetition of the same experiences over and over again, even if we don't particularly want to have these experiences. But we are, because of our creative nature and because of our ability to develop the skill to put our mind on the thoughts and the feelings that we want to have, we are empowered to change our patterns of thinking and feeling and to create something new. You know, and it seems like a really tall order to try and free ourselves from all our judgments and conditioning from our previous experiences and everything we've learned and internalized throughout our life. I always hear Joe Dispenza whispering in my ear that by the time we're 35, 95% of the thoughts we think and the feelings we feel are from our past experiences. So how do we learn to just let life be life without an overlay or an expectation of the past or the things that we've internalized? Well, how do we be in the moment like Sean O'Connell did as he watched that snow leopard, and he didn't want anything to distract him from the experience. He was just in it. He didn't want anything else but that moment. Well, it takes practice and willingness. We can develop the skill to take each moment that comes from a place of pure beingness. It just takes a little attention, a little practice. And when we practice experiencing life from that observer or witness self that we go into, that we greet when we go into meditation, into our spiritual practice, it's our connection to spirit. And the more we practice it, the better we become at simply being present. But here's the thing, the whole point of our spiritual practice is so that we can take that presence that we connect with when we're in practice and bring it out into our daily lives, to use it to navigate through and engage with everything that we experience in life. So I think we can look at it like this. Say you had a bad experience when you were a kid. You were bitten by a dog. You got attacked by the neighbor's dog and you had to have several stitches. That traumatic experience will certainly have some effect on your memory and cause some fear and trauma. Maybe it will come up every time you see a dog or every time you hear a dog bark. And you'll probably want to resist it and block it out of your experience. It's normal. That's what humans do. But maybe, just maybe, the path for you to move beyond that traumatic experience is to acknowledge it, to feel it for a moment, and then let it move through you. When we resist, when we try to cling on to something, we unconsciously give it our full attention and our energy. And then we just keep recreating it and just keep moving it into our experience. You know, and we might have to draw our attention to the experience of it and letting it go over and over again as we move back into our wholeness, into that place of our authentic self, our witness or observer self. And this is where the practice of forgiveness can be very powerful. It allows us to feel something in a safe place and to move past it. Forgiveness work is a very powerful tool. And probably I've done many talks on that, and I know we've done workshops on that. It's a great thing to revisit. But here's the other thing. We also need to let go of the things that we enjoy if we want to learn fully from being in the present experience of life. You know, let's give this example. Maybe you had an amazing experience one time watching the sun set over a deep blue tropical ocean. And now every time you see a beautiful sunset, you try to capture the experience by taking a photo or imprinting it, looking at the color, trying to name it and describe it. And in your attempt to hang on to that beautiful feeling, you miss the moment entirely. Maybe we need to be more like O'Connell with the snow leopard. As life comes in, we just let ourselves be in the experience. And I found that when I actually let myself be in that moment is carried with me, and that uplifted experience imprints on me more than if I tried to hang on to it and recreate it. Take a photo so I can remember it real quick. So it isn't just the things that we don't want to experience, it's the things that we love as well. Everything needs to be moved through us. That's the whole point of life, to fully experience everything. I was listening to this, I like to watch YouTube videos when I go on my treadmill. And the other morning I was listening to Michael Singer, who's the author of The Untethered Soul and The Surrender Experiment. I've been reading his book lately. Anyway, he said this, and I love this analogy. He used the analogy of a plasma screen TV. Apparently, when plasma screen TVs first came out, if you left a particular image frozen on the screen for any length of time, like you put it on stop or hold or whatever, the image would burn itself into the plasma. And then when you tried to watch something else, the old image was still visible underneath the new image, and you couldn't experience the current image because the old image was in the way. See where I'm going here? Our previous experience can have exactly the same effect on us. Well, when we go through life, letting ourselves experience the moments as they come, without our judgments, our commentary, our expectation, we move with life rather than trying to bend it to our will. I think that's the message of the story of the story of the garden in the book of Genesis in the Bible, the story of Adam and Eve in the garden. The garden is a state of consciousness that allows us to live in the flow of life, to live in the garden, to experience each moment as it comes. And I don't know about you, but when I let myself be fully present, I can see all kinds of wonderful things. If I'm just rushing through my day, trying to get what has to be done, living in the future, I miss a lot of the goodness of life. Sometimes when I just am present, I marvel at the trees and the wildlife and the sky and the rain and the ocean and all of the wonderful things that come my way and all the gifts that life actually brings. And being in the garden means that we are able to see the world and experience it as it comes. Not to spin in the things we don't like or cling to the things that we think we want to hang on to, but to live in the magnificence of the garden. And you recall in that story that God told Adam and Eve that they could not eat, that they could use anything in the garden. Everything was at their disposal except for they could not eat the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And I think that that's what the fall from the garden, the fall from grace was. The moment when Adam and Eve went from simply experiencing the nature of things in the garden without judgment to judging the nature of things in the garden and to comparing the experiences they had with all of the things in the garden. And everything has its own nature. We know that. We certainly feel the difference in the nature of a coyote or the nature of a butterfly landing on our arm. They're both perfect in their own nature and in their own way, but our experience of them is different. It's when we start to judge and to compare the nature of things that we begin to move out of the garden. We begin to get into the weeds, if you will. So the garden is the place in consciousness where we let go of our resistance and clinging to things that we think we want to experience more of, and we engage with every experience from that place of the witness or the observer self. That's our connection with spirit. That's where we go. If it's something we don't like, we experience it, we let it go. If it's something we do like, we experience it, and we let it go. This is how we begin to transform our error thinking, if you will, and move into the flow of life through the acknowledgement, the experience of our oneness with Source. Oh, I ran across this little saying. Let me see if I wrote it down. I'm going to find it. It's this ancient wisdom saying. Oh, here it is. I'm not even really sure where it came from, but the line is, when a thing no longer offends you, it ceases to exist in the old way. I love that. Talk about transformation. When a thing no longer offends you, it ceases to exist in the old way. The more we practice being okay with what comes our way and let things move through us without burning their image into our plasma screen, subconscious mind, the more we're able to let life flow through us. And because the nature of God, life, spirit, whatever name we want to give it, is love and goodness, the flow of life, standing in that flow of life, letting life come and letting it go, will bring us more and more and more good and amazing things will show up that we never could have predicted would happen. So this week, I invite you to greet all the experiences that come your way with an openness that you might not have allowed yourself to feel before. To move into a new relationship with the experiences that life brings. And maybe even feel gratitude for everything that comes your way. You know, I've been doing this little experiment in my own life recently where I've just let things come in. I don't have to control them. I don't have to own them. I have to feel them and allow them and let them go. And then I am staying at a state of peace, which is constantly creating and bringing me new and wonderful things. So that's what I'm inviting you to do. And I've found that as I do this, I feel much more peaceful. I feel much more calm and much more centered. I am not perfect at it yet, but I'm getting better at it. The more I practice just being present. Because as my talk title says, the Creator knows itself through its creation. And we are its beloved creation. That's who we are. So let's pray. So taking that deep centering breath in again, we're already in it. We're standing in the flow of the divine love, power, presence. It is the all-encompassing, the nature of everything in and through and as its creation, and we are its creation. So I speak my word for and about everyone who is here present on and everyone in our spiritual community who is not present at this moment, and everyone in our beloved country, beloved country that is moving into a new peace and equality. I speak my word for and about our beloved planet and every living soul upon it, for the mother herself. That there is a shift in consciousness that allows us to stand in that full flow of the created force of source itself. It is love, it is beauty, it is peace, it is calm, it is wisdom, it is all that we draw into our experience. It is everything that we experience always. And it is done with a sense of peace and allowing and welcoming the beauty of this thing we call life and the full flow of all of it. So I'm just so grateful for this. And it is in this gratitude that we move into the season of Thanksgiving, where collectively, even though we are not in the same room always, we are coming together knowing the goodness of life and feeling grateful for that. And that gratitude opens us up to even more goodness to receive. So for this and so much more, I simply relax in this gratitude. I allow it to be, and we signify our agreement by saying together, and so it is.